The word transfiguration or transformation is an interesting word. For example, somebody may decide to go to the barber to change their hairstyle. That's a transfiguration, a transformation. Or somebody is not happy with their nose. They want it reduced. And so they go to a cosmetologist. That is transfiguration also. Somebody, nowadays cosmetology is very popular, facelifts, all kinds of stuff. They are all transfiguration because the purpose is to make us look different, more attractive. Transfiguration, physical transfiguration. But this morning, we are confronted with another transformation, spiritual transformation. When Bishop Edward Broderick was auxiliary bishop in New York, he lived on 1st Avenue at 34th Street, a retirement home for priests. So this weekend, he was assigned to go to the Bronx, to Sacred Heart Church in Highbridge, to ordain 5 deacons belonging to Blessed Teresa's mission. Now, if you come from New York and you know the Bronx, that Highbridge is one of the most depressed, distressed areas in the Bronx. And that's why, of course, Mother Teresa's sisters were there. They always go to the poorest parish. So anyway, the ceremony begins. And in a very short time, there's a huge scream from the back of the church. And this young man, about 30 years of age, with a bloodied face and holding a bloody T-shirt, comes up the aisle screaming and sobbing. And when he reaches the altar, he trips and he hits his head on the step and he's out. So very quickly, Mother Teresa and 2 of her sisters and 2 of the ushers come out. They pick this man and very gently and compassionately, they take him into the sacristy. And there, they take care of him. Meantime, the bishop continues with the service. But when he's finished, he goes into the sacristy to thank Mother Teresa and the pastor. And this young man approaches him and says, "I have to talk to you." And begins to talk. And he says to the bishop, "Where do you live?" He says, 1st Avenue, 34th Street. "Do you have somebody to take you home?" He says, "No, I'll take you." And so he did. So when they get to the house where the bishop is staying, he wants to talk to him. So the bishop invites him in. And this is what he said to the bishop. "I was in the sacristy when the bleeding man was carried in. He had been beaten badly, and his language was terrible. But never in my life had I seen anything like the way he was treated by Mother Teresa and the sisters. They washed his face, got a new shirt for him, calmed him down, and then that evening made arrangements for him to stay at a house. I have never seen anything like the Jesus before. I am making a lot of money in the market, but I need something else. I need to be part of what I saw this morning in this church." So now that young man. So the bishop suggests to him, "Why don't you get involved in the parish? Why don't you be an usher, Eucharistic minister, teach kids in this religious education program?" And so on and so on. 4 years later, Bishop Egan is transferred to Bridgeport, Connecticut as the Archbishop. And lo and behold, one day who arrives? That very same gentleman he met in the Sacred Heart Church in the Bronx. So he said, I want to enter the seminary. So the bishop accepted him, he entered the seminary, and 4 years later, he was ordained a priest. But sadly, after 1 year, he got leukemia, and after a short time, he died. But that was a moment of transfiguration, of transformation. What he experienced in that Sacred Heart Church in the South Bronx was a moment that changed his life forever, just like Peter, James, and John. Their experience changed them forever. They would never forget it. And so it was the same thing with this young man. We're all called to be agents of transfiguration. Archbishop Desmond Tutu was a wonderful Archbishop of Cape Town, South Africa, an Anglican Archbishop. And he was very much responsible for getting rid of that terrible political system in South Africa called apartheid, meaning the separation of the races. And he and that great president, they got rid of it and eventually established a legitimate government. That also was a moment of transfiguration. But on one occasion, the Archbishop said this: God places us in the world as God's fellow workers, agents of transfiguration. We work with God so that injustice is transfigured into justice, so that there will be more compassion and caring, so that there will be more laughter and joy, so that there will be more togetherness in God's world. We're all called to be agents of transfiguration. First of all, to transfigure ourselves during the holy season of Lent by prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, but also by our example, like Mother Teresa and her sisters. We be an example to our families, to our neighbors, to our parishioners, those with whom we work, by the way we live our lives, by the way we act, by the way we speak, by the way we share with our brothers and sisters. In that way, we not only transfigure ourselves, but we become agents of transfiguration. So, on this second Sunday of Lent, as we continue the holy season of Lent, let us ask God for the help and the grace and the strength to continue that transfiguration in our own lives.